Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, ever since being cornered in the ruling party by his own comrades, has intensified meetings with the main opposition Nepali Congress, giving an open signal to the dissident faction. The Prime Minister's latest moves strongly indicate that he can play any card but won't relent the top executive role. Political analysts, meanwhile, have termed the Premier's gambit just a ploy to threaten his party colleagues. Good morning, I'm Amar Singh Pradhan and these are the top stories of the hour. 16 more people succumbed to coronavirus, taking the death tally to 1,321. Lack of priority to contact tracing and sample collection aggravates corona crisis. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli holds meetings with Nepali Congress President Sher Bahadur Deuba while internal bickering in the ruling party intensifies. The US coronavirus vaccine program chief says the first Americans to receive a COVID-19 vaccine could get it as soon as 11th of December. And Daniil Medvedev registers a competitive 3-sets victory over Dominic Thiem on his way to the biggest title of his career at the ATP Finals in London. At a time when disputes within the ruling Nepal Communist Party have been escalating, meetings between Prime Minister and Party Chairman KP Sharma Oli and President of the main opposition Nepali Congress Sher Bahadur Deuba are on the rise. Political analysts are watching this development with significant interest. The ruling Nepal Communist Party is at the verge of splitting due to internal bickering as factional disputes at the district level have started, along with the exchange of accusations between Premier Oli and Executive Chairman Pushpakamal Dahal. Prime Minister Oli, who has postponed the Secretariat meeting by 10 days, has been spending more time in talks with President of the main opposition, Sher Bahadur Deuba, than the leaders of his own party. According to sources, Premier Oli held a discussion with Deuba for more than 3 hours on Saturday, followed by another meeting yesterday. The Deuba Secretariat informed that the two leaders discussed over the appointment of officials at the universities during the informal meetings. According to a high-level source, the two leaders mulled over the possible power equation as well. Leaders from the Pushpakamal Dahal faction and the Madhav Kumar Nepal faction have expressed their reservations regarding the meeting. Amid Premier Oli's frequent meetings with Deuba, increase in factional gatherings and the fact that influential representatives from China and India are due to arrive in Kathmandu next week have also raised concerns in the ruling party regarding the meetings of the two leaders. The government has brought an ordinance to punish individuals involved in arbitrating rape incidents. The cabinet meeting held yesterday decided to make a legal provision for imprisonment from 6 months to 3 years and a fine of 30,000 rupees for individuals involved in arbitrating rape incidents. Minister for Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, Siva Maya Tumba Hampe, informed that the ordinance has been issued for imprisonment for 6 more months if a person holding public office makes such a compromise. Stating that the ordinance stipulates that imprisonment cannot be waived in rape cases, Minister Tumba Hampe informed that the provision of life imprisonment in a rape case of an individual below 10 years of age and above 70 years of age has been maintained in the ordinance. The new provision recognizes that males are also raped. The cabinet decision has been forwarded to the President's office for the endorsement of the ordinance. As the novel coronavirus continues its surge, 1,669 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed in the country yesterday, taking the total number of cases to 220,308. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 death toll in the country has climbed to 1,321 with 16 more deaths reported yesterday. The total number of tests through the PCR method has crossed over 1.66 million, with 8,032 swab samples tested in the past 24 hours. According to the Health Ministry, the federal capital reported 957 positive cases, with 773 new cases reported in Kathmandu district, 131 in Lalitpur and 53 in Bhaktapur. Likewise, 5,699 individuals registered full recovery in the past 24 hours, taking the national recovery tally to 199,024, while the recovery rate has now climbed to 90.3%. There are over 20,000 active cases in the country, with 6,554 corona patients in isolation centers, 13,612 in home isolation and 686 in various quarantine centers. The Health Ministry informed that 66 patients are receiving treatment with ventilator support, while 359 are in intensive cares across different hospitals of the country. Contact tracing and testing of an individual who has come in contact with the infected is considered essential in a bid to control the spread of coronavirus infection. However, confusion at the local levels over the fees for coronavirus tests has affected contact tracing and collection of swab samples since a month. Even as the Kathmandu metropolis has assured to expand both the tax from today onwards, there is no such preparations at other local levels. The government had decided to charge fees for the coronavirus test and treatments from 19th of October. The local levels since then have stopped carrying out contact tracing and collecting swab samples. Since that date, the Kathmandu Valley had already confirmed 55,000 COVID-19 cases. After contact tracing and sample collection were stopped, the number of the infection cases considerably increased in the valley. The government, meanwhile, corrected the decision after widespread protest. The Health Ministry had written letters to government hospitals on 12th of November to provide free tests to only those individuals who have fever over 100 degrees and other symptoms. However, the local levels have not even started contact tracing and collection of swab samples. As many as 80,000 new cases have been added, including 45,000 cases from the Kathmandu Valley alone in the past 1 month. The local levels have not given priority to contact tracing and sample collection, citing the government's stipulation of condition for sample testing. Contact tracing and the sample testing are considered mandatory in controlling COVID-19, as Nepal has already witnessed the consequences of virus spread from such individuals. Health experts say that there is no alternative with the local levels other than to isolate the infected individuals after contact tracing. The local levels, meanwhile, have also an opportunity to rectify the weaknesses seen earlier. Taking advantage of such an opportunity could break the infection cycle. However, there is no doubt that the pandemic would cause unimaginable damages if the weaknesses persist. Banks have been lowering the base interest rate as the investable amount has been accumulating. As it is not possible to invest below the base rate, the interest rate on loans is now expected to decline further. The investment expansion has been very minimal as the country's economy is reeling due to the coronavirus pandemic. New investors are in a situation of wait and watch, resulting in the accumulation of investable amount in banks. According to the Nepal Rashtra Bank, customers are waiting for a loan of 170 billion rupees in the banking sector. Banks have also reduced the base rate along with the interest on deposits as the investment sector has shrunk and deposit collection has skyrocketed compared to loans. As per the financial statement up to mid-October, 26 out of 27 commercial banks have slashed the average base rate from 8.5% to 7.79%. Rashtriya Banija Bank has the lowest base rate of 5.74%, while Nepal Bank has been providing loans and low interest rates. Banks are not allowed to provide credit below the base rate. There are indications that the demand for loans would gradually increase as interest rates fall. The central bank had issued a notice on Thursday to collect 30 billion rupees in deposits, of which banks had applied for only 23 billion rupees. The reluctance of the central bank to invest in deposit collection also means that credit flow from commercial banks has started. The banks can decide on the interest on the deposit themselves if the interest rate difference between loan and deposit does not exceed 4.4%. The weighted average interest rate on loans was 12% in mid-October last year, while it was 9.8% in the same period this year. Those who have made deposits their main source of income may be affected by the current declining interest rate. Financial analysts have said that the decrease in interest rate has created a favorable situation for the public to apply for credit and for the banks to expand investment. And in our public voice segment, we had asked the local residents in Rukum, why have the people's representatives not been accountable to the public? Let's take a look at what they have to say.
Public voice.
जनता प्रतिको प्रतिबद्धता र जनताको विकास क्रममा ल्याएको घोषणापत्रलाई लागू गरेको नदेखिएको कारण जनप्रतिनिधिहरू जनताप्रति वफादार र इमानदार नभएको चाहिँ प्रश्न देखिन्छ।
जति समय बित्दै गयो त्यति बिर्सिँदै जानुभयो। भोलि अर्को चुनाव आउँदाखेरि फेरि हामी हारिन्छ कि हामी पछि परिन्छ कि अर्को सरकार आउँछ कि भन्नेतिर उहाँहरुको ध्यान भएको देखिएकै छैन।
जनतालाई त उनीहरूले हेर्दैनन् किन भन्दाखेरि अब उनीहरूको अवस्था के हुन्छ मनसाय पक्कै पनि उनीहरूले लगानी गरेको चाहिँ आर्थिक कुराहरू चाहिँ उठाउनेतिर कुम्बाउनेतिर चाहिँ उनीहरू चाहिँ केन्द्रित हुन्छ।
यसपालि जिते अर्कोचोटि आउनु परोस् या नपरोस् मैले जे गर्नु छ मैले गर्नु छ भन्ने उहाँहरुसँग घमण्ड छ र अहमता छ।
जनता भनेका भेडा हुन् अनि कुनै नयाँ किसिमको केही भ्रम फैलाइदिउँला जनताले हामीलाई भोट हालिदिन्छन् भनेर एउटा उसको रूपमा लिएका हुन् कि
ठुलो धन सम्पत्ति आर्जन गर्ने अपर्च्युनिटी हो भनेर जनप्रतिनिधिहरूले हेरिराखेका छन्। त्यसकारण उनीहरू जनताहरू चाहिँ जनप्रतिनिधिको पहुँचबाट बाहिर पुगेका छन्।
धेरै कुराहरू उनीहरूले चाहिँ आश्वासन बाँडे पछि तिनीहरूले आफूले भनेका कुरा आफै बिर्से।
जनताको दुःख भन्दा पनि आफ्नो परिवार शाखा सन्तानलाई कसरी सम्पन्न बनाउने आफू कसरी सम्पन्न बन्ने भन्नेतिर बढी चासो दिए।
And it's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where it texts us with their opinion.
Public Pulse.
And the question is, what is the reason for the constant lack of riverine materials needed for projects of priority? Your options are option A, lack of coordination, option B, burdensome criteria, and option C, weak resource management. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And let's move on to sports update. Liverpool moved 11 points with Premier League leaders Tottenham Hotspur and thwarted Leicester City's hopes of going top with an outstanding performance and victory at Anfield. Jurgen Klopp's side remained behind Spurs on goal difference, but the manner of the win sounded an ominous warning to those hoping to wrest the title away from the champions. And they achieved this latest win amid a squad crisis that has robbed them of Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joe Gomez, Jordan Henderson, Thiago Alcantara and Mohamed Salah. Klopp's side took the lead midway through the first half when Johnny Evans nodded a corner into his own net, and the advantage was doubled 4 minutes before halftime when a move of 30 passes ended with Diogo Jota hitting in Andrew Robertson's superb cross. In another match late yesterday, Leeds United and Arsenal played a goalless draw. Nepal's national game, volleyball, is in deep financial crisis due to the COVID-19 pandemic. While other sports associations in the country have started trainings, the Nepal Volleyball Association is seeking for financial assistance from the government to start trainings. Nepal's national volleyball game, volley's popularity in the country is close to that of football and cricket. However, the Nepal Volleyball Association is not financially strong as All Nepal Football Association and Cricket Association of Nepal. Although the government has given permission to operate sports activities, volleyball players have not been able to return to the courts. The Nepal Volleyball Association doesn't have enough budget to fulfill all the criteria of being secure from coronavirus to start trainings and organize tournaments. Volleyball does not receive financial assistance from international sports federations like in football and cricket. Its sponsors are Nepal Volleyball Association's main source of income. The fates of the players of the women's national volleyball team who won the silver medal at the 13th South Asian Games and the players of the men's volleyball team who triumphed in the ABC Central Zone tournament are in a lot of crisis. However, the government has not yet introduced any financial packages to help the sports sector in Nepal. And it's now time for our special segment of the beat.
All the schools in Humla district which had reopened around mid-October have been shut again after 51 students of the same school tested positive for coronavirus. The educational institution have been closed as the students of a monastery and a school in Karnali's Humla district tested positive for COVID-19. The local level authority has made the decision considering the persisting risk of virus transmission. 19 schools in Humla district had reopened as per the directive of the local level authority, which now has posed threat to other schools in the district. The testing parameters have increased with additional health equipment and health experts, with those identified through contact tracing testing positive for the virus. The local level in various places have meanwhile geared up to reopen schools as the Ministry of Education issued a work plan allowing schools to operate. Meanwhile, the incident of schools reopening in Humla proves that it is imperative for the schools and students to mandatorily adopt preventive health guidelines. The Gairigaon village in Sahid Bhumi rural municipality of Thankuta is at high risk of possible landslide as massive land areas have started caving in while some places have experienced the formation of wide cervix. The scenario has already displaced many local residents from the village to safer locations. The villagers are terrified of the possible catastrophe as landslides have started occurring in some settlement with more land caving in along with the cervix. Many houses have developed cracks and are in poor condition while some villagers are putting their lives at risk by living in such houses having no other alternative for shelter. Meanwhile, the government has remained a silent spectator to the life-threatening issue of the villagers who have been demanding safer locations for their settlement. The movement in the roads leading to this village has now been hampered due to landslides in the region. There is a general call on the government to do the needful to address the plight of the villagers in Gairigaon in Sahid Bhumi rural municipality of Thankuta. This is Sarah Chitrakar for our special segment Off the Beat and Kantipur News Desk.
And before we wrap up this morning news bulletin, here's a look at the top stories one more time. 16 more people succumbed to coronavirus, taking the death tally to 1,321. Lack of priority to contact tracing and sample collection aggravates corona crisis. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli holds meetings with Nepali Congress President Sher Bahadur Deuba while internal bickering in the ruling party intensify. The US coronavirus vaccine program chief says the first Americans to receive a COVID-19 vaccine could get it as soon as 11 December. Daniil Medvedev registers a competitive 3-set victory over Dominic Thiem on his way to the biggest title of his career at the ATP Finals in London. And those were our latest headlines. Stay with us for more news and entertainment on KTVSD. Stay safe and good day.